God had spoken to Moses through a burning bush that he was supposed to lead the people of Israel out of their bondage to slavery in Egypt. But it wasn't going to be an easy task. Moses was afraid. But God said, I've given you everything you need. I've given you the tools you need for this. You just have to trust me. Let me show you something, but would you get Exodus chapter 6 open and let's take a look at it. It's like every garage in America has a set of tools hanging on the wall, and my brother-in-law's cabin is certainly no exception. Guys, it's kind of a guy thing. We really like tools. Most of us do. It's that thing, having the piece of equipment necessary to get done what you need to get done, and speaks to our desire for accomplishment. But if you don't have the right tool for the task, it can be very overwhelming. And that's how Moses felt when God told him, go and lead the people of Israel out of their slavery in Egypt. What a monumental task. He said, God, how in the world? I don't have the right tools. And God said, Moses, what's in your hand? You read that last week. Well, for Moses, it was a staff. And, we're not shepherds. We don't carry staff around. So I'm thinking of a yard rake here to, maybe some yard work here at the cabin. But God said, take that staff and you're going to show Pharaoh, you're going to show the people of Egypt my mighty hand that I am with you. Let's take a look at it and let's see right here from Exodus chapter 6. Let's sit down and take a look at it together. So in Exodus chapter 6, it's time for Moses to start his mission that God had given to him. Notice there in verse 28, when the Lord spoke to Moses in Egypt, he said to him, I'm the Lord. So you're to go tell Pharaoh, king of Egypt, everything that I tell you. But Moses said to the Lord, since I speak with faltering lips, why would Pharaoh listen to me? You get how big a challenge this is. How am I, who's been a fugitive from the law? Though Pharaoh would have known him as a child, he'd grown up in Pharaoh's household, but there now been, 40 years of him wandering and running as a fugitive, and he's going to come back. Why would Pharaoh listen to me? Well, verse 1 of chapter 7. Then the Lord said to Moses, see, I've made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. In other words, there's this teamwork going on between Moses and Aaron that God will speak to Moses, and Moses will represent that. Aaron will be the mouthpiece. Verse 2, you're to say everything that I command you. And your brother Aaron will tell Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of his country. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart. And though I multiply my miraculous signs and wonders in Egypt, he will not listen to you. And then I will lay my hand on Egypt with mighty acts of judgment. I will bring out my divisions, my people of Israel, my people the Israelites, and the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord when I stretch out my hand against Egypt and bring the Israelites out of it. Friends, you got to know this is a challenging assignment for everybody involved. For Moses and Aaron, there's the risk of presenting themselves to Pharaoh and being perceived as a rebel and possibly even imprisoned or executed. For Pharaoh, there's the hardship of appearing weak in front of his people politically. And even though we know slavery is a tremendous evil, it's also incredibly prosperous for that nation. And so giving all that up and so forth is not something that an evil, hard-hearted king is going to do. Now, you notice how God said there, I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart. That's a bit complicated. We're going to spend tomorrow's Daily 6 unpacking that. But for now, we've got to look at how God is going to deal with Pharaoh, what he's going to do to convince him it's time to let God's people go. In verse 8, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when Pharaoh challenges you and says to you, perform a miracle, then say to Aaron, take your staff, throw it down before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake. Take your tool of the trade, Aaron. Take your shepherd's staff. For you and me, it's our yard rake. Take this thing that you use all the time in your work and throw it down, and miraculously, supernaturally, it becomes a snake. And so they did that, and they did just as they commanded, and they threw down his staff. He threw down that which was his tool of the trade, and lo and behold, it became a snake. So Pharaoh calls all the magicians in Egypt, see if they can do the same thing. And sure enough, they do. And so, verse 11, Pharaoh summoned the wise men, the sorcerers, the Egyptian magicians. They also did the same things by their secret arts. Each one of them threw down their staff and it became a snake. But I love this part. But Aaron's staff swallowed up their staffs. Where God's like, all right, you guys have your magic arts, your demonic arts, and you can pull off this kind of thing, but yeah, watch this. And friends, over and over again, we see throughout the chapter 7 and you go on into chapter 8, you're going to see how God performs all these miracles. And Moses and Aaron, over and over again, Pharaoh's heart continues to harden. He continues to say no. And God says, I want you to keep throwing down your tool. What I've given you, the tool of your trade, keep throwing it down, and I will miraculously use you to convince the heart of Pharaoh. Friends, I wonder if what we could do today is give God 6 more minutes and think about what's in your hand. What is it that God has already gifted you with? What has God already positioned your life with? And will you trust him that what he's going to have you do for him, how you're going to live your life for the gospel, for God, to be on great exploits for the Lord? Can God do that even with the simplest of tools in your life? Could you give God 6 more minutes and pray about that? Ask the Lord, what have you given me and what do you want me to do? Coming back tomorrow, we're going to see about this whole hardening of Pharaoh's heart and where God was in it. But for now, give God 6 more minutes. We'll see you tomorrow right here on the Daily 6.